What's going on, listeners and viewers? Welcome to episode 2 of the Pondcast. With me here today is none other than Coach Ralph Andrew Ramos. How are you doing, Coach Ralph?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Coach Ralph. And how did you bring floorball into the Philippines exactly?
Well, we started sometime 2010, 2009. Personally, for me, I was introduced to the sport when I was actually undergoing rehab. No? So I had a knee injury back then, 2009, 2010. And then during that time, part of my rehab, activity or like cross training was floorball. So we were a group of coaches back then, from different schools, collegiate schools in different sport. And then we were introduced to floorball by actually a sport missionary group, who were working back then in among like Payatas kids, in Quezon City. So they were doing missions work, introducing the sport of floorball to the kids. And then it so happened that we were introduced to them. So we were introduced to floorball, and then we tried it. And then since then, we started introducing it, learning the sport, introducing it to different schools and colleges. So that's how we started floorball here in 2010.
2010. Well, before we go any further, I started off with the wrong question. Could you give the listeners and the viewers like a quick background check? What exactly is floorball?
Floorball, imagine hockey without ice.
Yes.
No skates, you don't need skates to play it. But same principle, you try to shoot the ball in the goal using the stick. You play six players per team, per side. So 5 field players with a stick and 1 goalkeeper without the stick. So instead of using a puck, you use a ball, plastic ball.
Yeah.
So it's a fast-paced sport, where you try to outscore the other team by again shooting the ball with a stick. You play it in a rink. So it's an enclosed half a meter tall wall. So the idea of the sport, the nature of the sport is continuous. It's fast-paced. And actually you can change players, anytime on the fly, as they say. So you can substitute players anytime, so long as you maintain, the enough number of players, the 5 players plus 1 goalkeeper inside the.
Quick question. So when you said that you can replace or substitute the players anytime on the fly, does that mean like you don't have to necessarily call a timeout?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to wait for a dead ball situation or for the referee to stop the play. So anytime you can change players. So it's really fast because.
It seems chaotic.
Well, initially, if you think about it, it seems chaotic. But once you watch it, sometimes you don't notice, players changing when you're watching a official floorball game where you have like experienced players, teams. So they change players, and sometimes you don't notice that they change. So it's really fast. Usually, a player stays in court, running up and down the court at most maybe 1 minute, or so. So that's how fast, because it's all once you get in, really go after the ball, try to defend, and then try to go for a counter, and then try to attack, and then after that, change players to sustain the pace of the team or the game. So yeah, that's how fast, and yeah, you can change players anytime.
Well, I have a curious question though. So you know how hockey is played on ice, right? And you're using ice blades to skate around. It's a good thing floorball wasn't used with rollerblades.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing about the sport. It's easy to play. It's fun to play. You don't need to learn to skate. You just need a floorball stick, a ball, and rubber shoes. So long as you can run and move. And the good thing about the floorball is that relatively it's easier to control the ball, with a stick and using your hands. Unlike other sports, of course, you have, for example, football or soccer. You try to control the ball with your feet, which is quite unnatural, di ba, at the
Yeah,
beginning. But
yeah.
of course, over time, you get to master it and
Get the
practice
hang
it.
of it, yes.
But with floorball, it's quite natural, to use your hands to control or manipulate an object. In this case, a stick, and try to control the ball. So it's easy to play. And again, if you compare it to other sport, like for example, basketball, very popular in the Philippines. But if you think about it, playing basketball, it's quite technical, complex, because you need to learn how to dribble the ball.
Yeah, the
So again,
fundamentals.
the fundamentals. But if you think about it, it's quite difficult. It takes time,
Takes time to master it.
master it and get used to it. But whereas with floorball, you don't have to, dribble the ball. You just have to direct the ball, wherever you wish to go, direction, or try to shoot the ball with a stick. So, yeah, in that sense, floorball is quite easy and fun to play.
So would you say that even the most unathletic person can just grab a stick and play floorball and easily, get past the learning curve?
Yeah, definitely. So for us in Philippine Floorball Associations, or the organization who tries to develop the sport here in the country, so we try to promote floorball as a sport, an activity where which everyone can play, regardless of your age, your gender,
Yes.
Yeah, basically you just need to move and you can play the sport. So yeah, it's for all, regardless of age and size. You may be the height, doesn't really matter. So long as you can move
What about
with the
weight
ball.
though? What about weight? Does it matter?
Well, floorball is a good fitness activity. Yeah,
A lot of
because
cardio.
it involves a lot of running.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, continuous running, and to some extent, it's actually high intensity, because it requires a lot of sprints and runs. So it's a good cardio fitness activity. So yeah, of course, eventually, you can use floorball. You can play floorball to lose some weight.
Wait. Yeah. And how would you say is, like, what's the status? Like, because I've seen a few games that the Philippines has been featured internationally, especially recently. Nakikita ko tayo, nasa balita na rin tayo, and we've taken floorball. You've taken floorball. You and the rest of the team have taken floorball to new heights. Right. So, what would you say is like the status of floorball in the Philippines right now? Is everyone aware of it? Do you think it needs more, promotional content to be, spread out?
Well, I wouldn't say it's already there, in terms of popularity. We consider floorball as a relatively young sport. Although in the past couple of years, recent years, we're able to build, the sport, promote it to different schools, and as you mentioned, we are able to participate in international competitions. So in fact, in 2019, before all of the pandemic happened, we were able to host and organize floorball as part of the Southeast Asian Games when we hosted it here in Manila. So it was actually good publicity, for the sport.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we would say it's a milestone, for us to be included in that momentous event, which is a big ASEAN sport event, the SEA Games. So and even before that, we tried to build up, national team players. But I think more importantly for us is the domestic or the local events or competitions. So again, prior to the pandemic, we were organizing already leagues. So the backbone of the core of our organization, Philippine Floorball Association, are the clubs, the member clubs. So we have clubs and who trains, regularly and joins or participates our Philippine Floorball League. So that's where we also, gather or select, players, who may represent the country, eventually. But yeah, recently with the pandemic, all these things, the events, plans came to a halt, to a stop basically.
Yeah.
So right now we're trying to get back, but yeah, it takes time, process to really build the sport, promote the sport. You know, yeah, if we wish to see floorball, considered as a popular or mainstream sport, in the future. But I think it takes time, and it's important to focus on those in a club and local activity. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get to the main reason why we actually invited Coach Ralph, I have one more question for you. So, would you say like a lot of athletes and a lot of like the coaching staff from other sports, would you say that they're very much intrigued with what floorball is all about, and would you say that they're also interested to learn the sport as well?
Yeah, I think in our experience, sharing or introducing floorball to different places, like I said, to schools. There's a thing with floorball being it new, it really becomes very interesting, naturally interesting for the players or those who try it, may it be students, teachers, coaches from other sport, we say it's like the impression, no, first impression for floorball, at least in our experience, it's really positive. Being it as a really interesting, exciting game. So especially once you try it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you just watch it, it seems very difficult and very fast. But it's different when you actually get to try it yourself. Sometimes that's how we. At least in our experience with our players, who continue playing the sport. At the beginning, they feel parang overwhelmed or parang let's say this, parang they were intimidated.
Yeah.
Intimidated with the sport because it's very fast. But once they tried it, continuous na yung paglaro nila. So yeah, it's there's that kind of appeal, with floorball being a sport.
Yeah, I would say so myself, because even I myself am still yet to try the sport. I hope I can try the sport one of these days. Now let's actually get to the topic at hand, which is the upcoming floorball coaching level 1. Could you tell us all about it, Coach Ralph?
Yeah, so as we try to get back, to organizing floorball activities, events. So this coming August 10, 12, we'll be having the floorball startup course. So where we equip coaches, teachers, those who are interested to become a level 1 coach or basic coach, floorball coach. So we introduce them to the sport of floorball, show them or let them experience, the basics, the fundamentals, to learn how to teach and coach, the sport, and eventually start their own club. So that's the purpose or the target outcome for that course or program. Is that for the participants, the coaches, that they eventually start their own club in their respective maybe community or school, or organization. So that's the goal or purpose of the floorball coaching course, to be held on August 10 to 12 in partnership with Lyceum Lyceum of the Philippines, University or LPU. In Cavite.
Okay. And when you say level 1, does that mean there are other levels in terms of like coaching in floorball?
Yeah, right now we are we're establishing, the coaching development program for floorball coaches, locally. So that is basically the entry level, coach level 1, where again the main the outcome is that they start their own floorball team, their club, particularly starting with how to coach or teach the youth. So children, ages 12 and under, And then ideally, the next step would be for them to get equipped, to learn the more intermediate,
Yes.
to advance levels, coaching, maybe a club, competitive team, and then the next step would be more advanced, coaching, which will allow them to coach on a national level. I mean,
I see.
like the level of coaching a national team, for
Yes.
example. So that's the plan for the coaching development program. So we do it right now. We're working on 3 levels: level 1, 2, and 3. So again, the basic, intermediate, and advanced.
Okay.
So it's somewhat relative to the age group that you're teaching. So level 1 is the entry. So you'll be equipped to teach basics, the young ones.
The young ones.
The intermediate, maybe a club, team. You can coach, and then level 3, the highest, maybe you can coach at the national international level.
But like for the young ones, since you said the level 1 coaching is like for entry level, are the kids also allowed to like compete as well with other? Are there like designated clubs for kids?
Yeah, definitely. That's the thrust now of the association, where we try to promote and organize events, competitions, tournaments, for the younger age groups, So actually, before pandemic, we already had in our Philippine Floorball League, PFL. Aside from the men's and women's division, we already have the under 17 division, and then at that time we started already with under 15, under 15, under 13. So we're really moving towards that direction to really build more or organize more events for the younger players. So as young as under 12, under 15. So yeah, that's the goal. So for coaches, entry-level coaches, they'll be equipped to handle such teams.
Well, with that being said, so you know how basketball is like one of the hottest sports here in the Philippines, right? But that's only because a lot of kids would always, a lot of parents would expose their kids rather in the sport of basketball. So now that, Philippine floorball is now trying to expand their demographic. It's trying to expand and target the younger audience. Do you think in the near future, or even in the farther future, do you think floorball will become a mainstream sport in the Philippines?
Yeah, well, that's the vision, no? That's the goal. I guess particularly long-term goal for the sport. But not necessarily we become bigger than the top sport like basketball or volleyball, but at least we'll be there at the maybe top 5, top 10 most played sport in the country. So I was saying in our group, in our organization, if we can only tap 1% of the population to play floorball, then that would be a great success already. Being 100 plus 110 million now, I think, in population now for Filipinos.
Yeah.
So just having 1% of that,
Exactly.
a million players, playing floorball, or at least know how to play floorball, that would be a great milestone or feat, for anyone. For a country like ours, or for an organization as the Philippine Floorball Association.
Well, thank you for that, Coach Ralph. And I just like to remind everyone that we are inviting you to.
Yeah, this coming August 10 to 12, we invite you to the Philippine Floorball Startup Coaching Course at the LPU in Cavite. So teachers, coaches, even sport enthusiasts are welcome and are invited to join if you're interested to learn a new sport and maybe start your own team, to coach or to teach a new sport like floorball. We invite you to join us. So again, this coming August 10 to 12 in LPU Cavite. Philippine Floorball startup coaching course. So welcome everyone.
And thank you, Coach Ralph, for being here at the podcast. We really appreciate your time, and I hope to see you again in future episodes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and all the best to this new podcast. So looking forward to more episodes and great content for this show.
Thank you.